The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN, The Spin. BigJ's Beef! Last week you were telling me that I kept bouncing around talking about our Star Trek episode. I think that was you, because you were hopping around all over the place and I couldn't focus, couldn't really concentrate.
Oh, blame it on me.
For real, yes. Like I didn't know what was going on. And so when we talked today about Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 9. Oh, by the way, this is Big J. I'm here with Nico. And this time around, I'm hoping that she'll stay on track and not hop all over the place. I start over?
Yeah.
Should I?
Yeah, you messed that all up.
I messed the whole thing up. No, we're going to keep it.
Blame it on me, but then you do a mess up. Okay, so there we go.
I'm a screw up. I'm used to it.
Just don't blame it on me.
I know what the audience is thinking themselves. Big J, why don't you rehearse this shit before you record it? My response to that would be, it doesn't matter. All right, so let's get down to it. Now, did you put my robe on the back of your chair?
I did, so we don't see the yucky part.
Well, that's my Star Trek robe.
I know. You could put it on.
No, I know. I'm not going to put it on. I did not just get out of a shower. So it wouldn't be right.
Then the whole audience would be like, why is he wearing a Star Trek robe?
And then again, I would say it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So I've got beef with this episode that we watched.
Can I tell
today.
You I didn't catch the name of the episode?
Vox.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah, name of the episode is Vox.
Okay.
So
that's how much I was paying attention.
That's like the first thing.
No, I was busy reading the little excerpt so that I kind of had a clue what was going on.
Okay. So what you're trying to tell me is you weren't paying attention.
No, I was paying attention. I just happen to pay attention to different things than you do. And since I felt rushed.
It's a low bar. I don't pay attention to anything.
Well, I know, but I was like feeling rushed to get like the episode watched so we could come record. And so, I didn't have all of my little ducks in a row.
So now suddenly it's me.
It's still you.
It was my fault. I did nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
I said, let's sit here and watch the episode.
Yeah.
You hurried yourself.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Well,
all right.
No, because you got places to be. So.
Can I lend you out to another podcast outfit? Like anybody who needs a smart mouth co-host, I've got one right here for you. Her name is Nico. She works for free.
No, I want to be paid.
Nope. This is not a paying gig.
Well, I said I wished, I can wish all I want, right?
So I really like this episode. Don't get me wrong. I liked it. I thought it was a great episode. We got a lot of answers to things that we've been asking ourselves all season. I did not in a million years see it coming with the Borg and the Changelings working together on this whole plot. But the problem that I have is with the Borg. Why are they being so extra? They have assimilated countless species across an uncounted number of worlds. And when it comes to Starfleet, to me, it feels like they keep screwing around with them. I mean, if they wanted to assimilate Earth, they could do it. Twice they've only sent, twice they've only sent one cube to go after Earth, try to assimilate Starfleet and the Federation. If they really, really wanted to do it, like, all right, send 4 cubes or 50 or 100 or the multiple hundreds that you have. Why all this subterfuge? I don't know. I don't get it. Why? Why has there been this big conspiracy plot for the Borg to get themselves placed this way under the radar? It does not. I like the explanation that they're giving for everything. The explanation is great, but why did we have to go here? Why did it have to be like this?
You like to be sneaky about things. I mean, they want to be sneaky about this, right?
But why? I wouldn't be sneaky if I don't have to be.
Yes, but with that competitive edge and this being now, I'm surprised we're saying this is like the same queen that we thought was destroyed before. So I'm having a little bit of issue with that she just is able to miraculously pop up after like she was, I thought she was like eating away all of her organic parts out of acid kind of stuff, and like the mechanical part that was left couldn't function alone.
Talking about the events from First Contact.
And them removing the chip that she had. So if they took away a piece of her that was like the main part of her functional brain or whatever, like took the spine part out and all that and separated her into pieces and broke parts of her. Like I get that they could like put things back together in a certain way, but like I would think that they were missing. I thought they shot the little chip or something too. The hand wave explanation that's given, and this goes back to the events of Star Trek First Contact, where Picard was faced with the Borg Queen again. Apparently she was on the cube that had assimilated Picard during the events of Best of Both Worlds. And the way that it was explained that the Queen was present on that cube and that we have her here now is she just really gave kind of a throwaway line of you think in 3 dimensions. So what we're supposed to take from that is that she's able to kind of cross her essence over across space, some kind of thing. It's hokey pokey magic is what it is. It's not really, it was kind of explained to us, which I understood the explanation at the time, but our takeaway from it is because of the Queen, of course, return in Star Trek Voyager. So here's the way I take it. The way I understand it is whenever they want the Borg Queen, even if they've killed her a couple other times, they're going to have the Borg Queen. They don't give a shit if we thought that was the last appearance. It's just going to happen. She's going to be there whenever they want. And there's just this kind of built-in acceptance now. It's kind of like Kenny from South Park. You know, she's been off, 3 times at least that we can count. She comes back. Well, you know how a real beehive works, right? So if they lose their queen, they put a new queen in there, or the rest of the hive dies. So I don't know. Did we have a collective thought? So there's some sort of like memory that's stuck in of her presence, kind of like an Avatar, how they had the tree and all the ancestors were like stuck in the tree, their essences. So maybe, I mean, that's the only thing I could think of that would match kind of what you're saying, where they could just give her like a new body and part of her brain's patterns, and kind of like with Data lore, you know, where they pulled all the stuff together and could bring them. Well, and even with Picard, you know, where they were transferred his like memory stuff over. So I get that. Okay. But that's kind of hard to believe.
It is. And we're not supposed to spend a whole lot of time on it, is basically how we're presented with it. But I want to hear from you to see if the problem that I had, before I expand on it more, is the same problem that you had.
No, my problems were other problems.
Ooh,
so,
really? Okay.
Yeah, like my first problem was the whole thing right at the start. You know, like I got upset because they cut us off right when she was going to open the door. Troy was like going to open the door in the therapy session. And I'm like, this is stupid because what therapist just jumps right in, doesn't know anything about the patient, and thinks they're going to do a treatment. So I was like, this is very irresponsible. So in
therapist that's out of network for your insurance, that's
well, no, I mean, she was definitely out of commission for like years on end. And then she's just jumping right back in and like pretending like she is just going to be capable of handling this. So my issue at the very start of this episode was the fact that they had not set up any kind of protocols. Like, I don't even know, other than maybe Picard knew about her doing this session. So basically, even if anybody else knew about it, like she's alone with him in a room. And she's going to go into his mind. And obviously that he's already taken over other people. Like, I think I brought this up last time. Like, what could be the level of damage that he could do to her? So, you know, like we kind of go straight into this, right into his mind, open that door, and she freaks out and runs away. And we're like, he's left, like, what the heck? So first of all, in a situation where we have a therapist and a patient, like, you don't do that. You don't like discover something about the patient and then like leave them completely hanging.
Haul ass out of the room.
And and he's like, what? You know, like, okay, so that's just very unprofessional, which really wasn't the issue I had with it, but the fact that, okay, so we've already seen him take over people. We've seen them let the changelings on board, and like they just so happened to, in the nick of time, get all of them trapped, and that all worked out great. But now we have a situation where after he has shown different ways of taking over people. One is just the eye thing. Two is the whole body thing and mind thing and being able to move the person around, directing them basically as though he's them. She leaves him and there's nobody there. Like she goes out of the room and there's nobody outside the door. She goes running all the way down to, Picard and like, why are they waiting all the way? Yeah. Why are they waiting all the way down in sickbay to find out what he finds out? Like, why was he not even in sickbay? Like, why is there nothing attached to him? Why is he sitting in this room with her? And there's no monitors. There's no scientific parts to this.
Well,
there's no medical parts to this.
There wasn't supposed to be at that point. At that point, it was really, and I think your concerns would kind of have to be covered under client-patient confidentiality, because even though she hasn't been practicing in a while, she still can't go revealing. Well, okay, so here, these are very special circumstances, though. Okay. They didn't have time for all the consent and waivers and everything else. And plus, he's an adult anyway.
Okay, it doesn't matter about that. If, let's say you murder somebody and then you're caught, they put you in the ER and the police come and question you under medical care with the medical care people present and the police there. Mm-hmm. So in this kind of situation, I kind of felt it was more along those lines. Like he should have been in sickbay. They knew that he was having major migraines and glowing eyes and all that stuff. I mean, that's not normal behavior for a human being. So to set him anywhere in the ship without being medically monitored does not make sense to me.
Well, but because she had to get into his mind to help. Right,
but why is she not doing that in the sickbay with him attached to mine?
Why would she?
Because that would have been in his best interest not to be dead. And number two, in her best interest not to be taken over and controlled. I know they don't really know anything about what's going on and how he's doing this, but don't you think that, right after it's revealed of what she finds out, they say, oh, wait, we've got protocol for that. So wait a minute, where was the protocol enacted or in place before you found out what was in it? I mean, there's Starfleet, you don't just do things wonky-willy. All right.
Oh, yeah, you do. If you're Starfleet.
No. I mean, these are people that we have said have experience for their entire life and been up against so many different species and different things that they didn't know about, got in these really tough situations. And you're saying, here we've seen something we've never seen before. We see things in him as a human being we've never seen in another human being. Why would you? And it's like the plugging up of data. Why would you do that? You wouldn't do that. Okay. So I don't feel like, at least in this episode and in this season, that our writers have really given credit to all of the knowledge and all the skills and all the things that if you were a professional, I don't walk in a classroom day one and act like I've never taught before and do things that I would know not to do. Mm-hmm. So it's people are doing that. It's they're coming in and they're acting like they have no previous knowledge of how to do anything. And it really makes them look unprofessional, but stupid. It makes them look like they are a novice, and none of these people are novices.
Well, the thing is, though, he wasn't undergoing at that time a medical examination. That was already done. The thing that he was having that we were trying to get answers from at that point was not
hearing voices, seeing things.
It wasn't going to be obtained by a medical apparatus or machines.
Considered medical, though.
I meant equipment, hardware.
I know, but they should have.
No, it was. You need a BigJoid to dig into the mind and to see what's there. You can't get that from a tricorder.
You are all about Willy Wonky ways. Okay,
it's so we've heard it here.
He wants to live dangerously. I don't.
Sometimes I do.
Okay.
I mean, I'll admit I'm a cowboy, but the thing is that he's had the scans. He's had those things done. They're not going to be able to see what he sees, how he sees it, without it. If Troy was a Vulcan, this would have happened with Vulcan mind-meld. There would have been something like that done with a Vulcan or a Betazoid. Luckily, they had a mind reader on the ship. That's the point where they were at. This wasn't a medical diagnosis
You
part.
would be okay being the therapist going in, putting your brain connected to this person and saying, hey, if I come out with fried eggs, scrambled eggs head, I'm okay with that.
What? Scrambled egg head.
Scrambled egg head. I mean, really?
I'm not saying that I'd be too thrilled about it, but they've got to get answers.
But if that's your profession, would you think that that's a professional way to go about it?
This isn't the first time she's done stuff like this. This is not something that is like completely groundbreaking that we're seeing for the first time. And let me take you back. Let me take you to this. Okay. Perfect example. Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, when it was the whole plot assassination attempt on the Federation president during the big talk at Kittimer, Valeris, you remember Lieutenant Valeris on the Enterprise. She had the information as to the who, what's, when, and whys of this conspiracy, but she wasn't talking. They knew she knew the info. Well, gave her a chance to speak up. She did not. So Kirk signaled for Spock to do the mind meld. Sure, it had to be pretty invasive, but they were not in a position where protocol and rules could be followed. We were talking about some very high risk state of emergency kind of things. And you're not going to get the answers. If they hooked her up, if it had been McCoy's arena to do like a medical setup or scan or whatever, they weren't going to get anything. That was not that scenario. We were at the Spock, it's time to get into your head kind of thing. Same with this, with Jack. We've already gone through all the in sick bay stuff. We did that. And right now we're not trying to figure out what's physically or medically wrong with him. It's in his head. We've got to get in his head to see what's there and what's going on. And that's why Troy had to do what she had to do. And here's the thing. It's not like this is just some standard, there's nothing on the line therapy session. We're talking about a big ass plot that involves Frontier Day, something with the entire fleet, Picard's old body being stolen. There's all this shit going on. You kind of have to take the chance.
That makes me think even more so that because he doesn't know Troy at all.
Okay.
He's scared to death.
Well, he's heard, remember.
Okay, he might have heard part stories, but he's never met her in person. Okay. And here on the other side of it, being the patient part, like I would have thought, number one, I wouldn't want somebody who's just coming off of wherever. She just came off of
vacation.
No, she came off of like losing her son years and years ago. And that's what she's been dealing with all this time. And then she's going to go right back into doing something in somebody's head. So, I mean, you've got to look at that piece of it, that nobody's stopping her or being there to support her end of it. And there's nobody there to be on his end of the support of it. So I'm just really shocked that with this whole danger looming upcoming Frontier Day thing that we know, like we're so limited on our amount of time and all of this stuff. I'm shocked that his parents aren't in the room and they're not there to support him and they're not there to support her. And they're not there like kind of as maybe like a group discussion once they find out what it is behind that door to immediately have some sort of conversation amongst all of them so they can make a plan about what's going to go on. And the other thing that I really was struck by was the fact that she sees something and he doesn't. He's still blind to the problem. So how is that happening? How is it that she sees something, but she sees it and he doesn't?
Well, I think that maybe it goes back to how a Betazoid works. That part didn't not sit well with me. So, okay, let me ask you this. How there was a revelation that was on the line that needed to be made. How would you have preferred that they somehow found out that he was part Borg.
Well,
how do you think they were going to find that out? How would you have wanted to see it?
Well, I think a little bit of it was answered in the fact that as soon as the word Borg comes out of her mouth, they're jumping into action. Like, no,
I'm saying you didn't want her to be in his mind. So how else would you have wanted them to find that out?
I would have thought, well, it's not so much the fact that I mind her going into his mind. It's the fact that I feel like she's unprepared for it. She hasn't been doing this in a while. She's not protected against him. He's got fear going on. He doesn't know what this is. He could do something to hurt her, even unintentionally. And then, like it being such a big deal that it turns out to be the Borg, like the way that they relay it to him. I mean, I know they don't have a lot of time to how do you sugarcoat that this is the Borg? There really isn't any of it, but I'm surprised that Picard says, well, this is my fault, so I'm going to go tell him alone.
It was.
Okay, so maybe it was, but I really, we keep making it one parent or the other. And I'm really struggling with the fact that it wasn't both of them with him, with Troy being there. Like, I'm really struggling with that whole piece of, yes, I realize he's 25.
He needs some privacy. You don't want to have your parents there. No parent is present with their child when they're having their counseling or therapy session.
That's not true.
There needs to, I'm talking about,
that's not true.
Okay, well, he's over 18. Let's just go with that. He's over 18. He would not, in most normal, I'm not talking about young children, but I'm just saying you want to be able to have that trust with your therapist. You don't want your parents in there with you.
The whole time I'm freaking out. I've always known there's something wrong with me.
Okay, so I don't need mom and dad there while he's talking to the counselor.
Well, I mean, actually, this wasn't really nobody stopped to really ask him. Nobody said, she was like, we need to find this out. We need to find it out now. We're going to do this.
He wanted answers too.
But nobody said, hey, should we, with protocol, because we don't know what we're dealing with, should we have them waiting outside? Should we have them closer? Should we go to the room next door to sickbay? I mean, there could have been a little more planning on this when it's such a big thing. And then the part where we say, oh my God, now we know it's Borg and we've got protocol for this. We're like, oh, well, we didn't even know we had protocol. So what was this protocol? What should we actually be doing? I kind of was a little thrown for that. Okay, they know they've had some instances and experiences with the Borg. So they've come up with some ways. But the other thing that really bothered me was, okay, so we're talking about something that they said was organic tech. Picard had been taken over. They said, oh, wait a minute, you were misdiagnosed. So it wasn't this other Irritable syndrome. That really wasn't it. The thing that was taken out of your body was because of this DNA sequence. And this DNA sequence was borrowed, and basically the changelings were working with the Borg and we're inserting that into everybody that's going through the transporter. So I'm having a little bit of issue with the fact that as it was, everything they thought was removed wasn't from Picard. He was passed through Starfleet testing, whatever they thought was clearance, that he was okay. So they're saying once we get to this point with Jack is basically cornered in his room by Dad and gets past Dad and takes over the two officers who are basically security people, and he basically has control of their body with their guns. So we're looking at a situation where okay, whatever protocol was set up was, depending on with this situation really wasn't thought through because they already knew he could take over people. But just a simple gun, why was he not in a room behind some sort of force field? Would the force field have held? I don't know. But at least if there was some sort of containment system, maybe he would not have been able to easily just walk out of this ship.
I don't think that anyone thought that he would just go and do that.
Yeah. And there really wasn't any stopping him. They really didn't try. They kind of were
Would you have thought he would have reacted that way? Once he found out what was going on, he just decided, I'm leaving. I'm taking these two guys as my bodyguards until I get to the shuttle. I'm gone. I didn't think he would react
once
like that.
Again, he's dealing with each individual parent and each person separately. Mm-hmm. If there had been kind of a group, I just feel like if there had been a group around him, that were supportive people, maybe like
they're not going to sit around singing Kumbaya. I'm sorry. It's just, where are you going with the whole, like, what?
Well, he's so arrogant now, which we know because he's a young man.
Yeah.
He is Picard's son. So I know that's like, Picard's kind of like, yeah, you got the worst of me. But, this whole idea of this very young man who has no idea, has never really truly been up against anyone. And certainly no one else other than Picard has ever been up against, and maybe other than, I can't really even include 7 of 9. She was like removed from having been assimilated. So it wasn't like the same thing.
You want to turn that damn phone off? Didn't you do that one? Okay.
I'm sorry. That was totally a spam call. Not my fault. Right. I already did turn off the other one. So you're rushing me. So. No. I mean, very calm, kind of down to earth. I mean, he was a little spacey here and there as the way his character was written.
Right.
But, he was a very nice young man. He wasn't this competitive driven young man. And this is how they've written his character. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going along with how he's been characterized and what we know from what she shared with us of the past, of what we missed out on his upbringing. And, and then the little bit of competition we've seen, just amongst him in his kind of role on the ship. He does try to downplay some stuff. Like, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be special. I didn't ask to be, your son and all that. But he's got a very competitive streak. And a lot of that is that young man testosterone. And so he just goes off and I'm going to steal this ship and I'm going to go face her because I'm me and she hasn't been up against me yet. So, I mean, I've really got an issue with that. Like, they all just kind of let him go. Like, nobody's even like tugging on his shirt saying, hold on a minute. They
couldn't because he had the 2 guards.
I know.
So let me ask you this, and I want to try not to get too far off topic with it, but I've seen it. I've watched the episode twice now, and the first time the other day, the second time here with you, is okay. So the plot with the changelings being the ones to get this code into the transporter systems, was that, where did they get that? How did they get that? Because I feel like Jack and the transporter code assimilation thing are 2 different things.
Okay, so what I understand from this storyline is that what the changelings used was actually recorded in their system as part of Picard's DNA.
Yes.
So they actually took that out of his old body from the Daystrom station, and like somehow got that sequenced. And I don't even understand that, like, because we're not talking about like oh God, what is the thing with the ship? Oh God, what is the name of that? Where the ship is alive and the brown coats. What's his name? It's not Firefly, is it? Serenity and Firefly?
Yeah.
Like the ship is like organic and like...
No, not in Firefly. Are you talking about the Voyager, the binaural gel packs?
No, I'm talking about that whole ship that's like kind of like a jellyfish thing. And they're like riding inside it. And like, it's actually like a living animal. Farscape. Yes. Farscape. Sorry. I knew I was on the wrong thing, but I mean, I almost like our ships in the fleet here aren't like that. They're not like an animal organism that is this flying machine kind of organic animal. So that was kind of where my mind went. And I was like, well, I don't really get how they're coding something with DNA. So I don't know that that's truly answered. I kind of felt like, I don't know. I kind of almost felt like maybe this was kind of like, and this doesn't answer the question either, because I kind of was thinking like, you know how, they were talking about like they had Riker and pretty much everybody, and this doesn't explain it either. They took Riker over. And so they could like model him through the changeling because they had come into contact with him. But they said most of the time they killed those people. So they had Riker and they were like copying him, but they didn't kill him.
No, a changeling does not have to kill its subject that it wants to copy.
Okay, so that was
the T-1000 Terminator does that kind of thing, but no, not changelings don't.
But they did say that at one point that was kind of standard operating procedure. So that whole...
Well, okay.
So yes, that I was kind of taking it as I guess they were going through the transporter, maybe they were like taking over the people and turning them into the changelings through that DNA, because their DNA was different. So that was kind of the thing where I kind of thought like the first person stepped in and then somehow there was like this magical thing into the replicator and out came, the other version that was the changeling person. But that still doesn't answer everything. So that I don't know, my thought process in that whole realm is still kind of clicking along.
It feels like that they very thoroughly explained this piece and that part, but I don't know how those two parts are supposed to go together. Okay, so maybe we don't know until next episode, though. I feel like they explain the entire thing, but I'm not understanding, and I don't know if it's just because of how I think, or what. Because if the whole plot that they had hinged on getting this DNA from Picard's old body, they couldn't have started the whole thing with the transporters. Maybe like, how much time has gone from in this season when his body was captured to now? Like a week? Couldn't have been more than that. So you're telling me that they got his body and started this thing with the transporter code several days before.
I think the transporter code could have they were moving everybody off of wherever the stations were, like the bases were, and into the ship. So I could see where this was a very fast because they said it's a genetic mutation. Now, my other question was, they talked about it being organic tech. They talked about Picard's DNA, but they also said something about nanoprobes. So here's the question. Data, and this was my other thought, Data had been taken over by the Borg. So he is synthetic, had nanoprobes, correct?
No nanoprobes. No. So Data was seduced.
Okay. So not taken over
Queen,
at all?
Not assimilated.
Okay. So, well, then let's talk about 7 of 9. Had implants. Did she have nanoprobes?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Did they get all the nanoprobes out of her? And she just still has some visual implants?
No, my understanding is that...
or is she genetically changed already?
Oh,
because I'm seeing like a big red flag with 7 of 9 now being the captain on the Titan.
You're asking, once you have nanoprobes, are they there in you forever?
Yeah, because
I don't think so.
So
no, but that's not right, because there have been times where she's like used her
had little
simulation tools and nanoprobes do stuff.
Yeah. So that's my other question, was because I'm like, okay, 7 of 9 versus Data. I'm like, Picard would be more like 7 of 9. But if she had been reclaimed, how much of her is still like residual Borg?
Oh, a lot. I mean,
more than Picard, right? Yeah. Like, we don't see anything on Picard's. Well, obviously, this is a new synth body. So that's where I kind of got a little confused, too. But even if he's a synthetic, then he is like Data in a way, right?
He's right now, Picard is more like the new Data.
Okay.
In regards to form and structure than 7 of 9.
Okay. So then 7 of 9 is more like Jack than. So
if you had to make a comparison, yes.
So Data and Picard might be safe over here from Borg influence, but now 7 of 9 and Jack are completely open to being controlled.
No, they're not, because that was the other thing was,
if it's a DNA genetic mutation that they both had, or well, I don't know. No,
they couldn't assimilate anyone over 25. Well, in human years, it could be different ages for other species, but remember.
But she was assimilated as a child?
but that was a whole different thing. Yes. She was assimilated as a child. Yes. But the thing that's going on now
so you don't
does not affect older people.
Okay. So you think that even though she was reclaimed as an adult and liberated, but because she had been assimilated as a child, you don't think that there's any residual control that they could come back and get through to her?
No, not control. No, she can still feel the collective, hear them. But no, there has not been, and I could be wrong. That I feel like there was something somewhere in Voyager where something like that was a possibility or happened. But I'm going to say right now, I'm just going to make a declaration, even though I could be wrong, that no, there is no risk of her being able to be reclaimed by the Borg without that physical contact of assimilation tubules jutted into her neck and reassimilated.
Okay. And with the tubules, we're assuming that they're injected with the nanoprobes.
Yes.
And that takes, okay.
That's how you get the nanoprobes.
Wasn't there like one brief moment at the end too, where Picard's synth body now heard the collective, or was I just imagining that?
You were.
Because I thought we briefly saw that, and maybe that's.
He was still. I don't think he was. No, he was no longer. The hearing of the collective before he died was something that was a part of him, was like in his, as we found out, was in his body. But now it's just a voice in the head. It's not the collective.
So it's a memory.
It's a memory.
Okay.
Now it's a memory. It's not actually the voice of the collective. Not like what he was hearing during any other time.
Okay,
like during
I'm
first
okay
contact when he said, I can hear
Yeah, because that was going to throw me for a whole nother loop if we were going to say, like, I'm like, no, there's too many cross boundaries already that I'm a little confused with. So yeah, but I am really wondering too, because, Data was like, are you sure we're not connected to like the Borg? Like he had, now that we know he's a little more human, he has a fear of being connected back to them, or maybe even possibly being, I don't think they could seduce him at this part because like the lore part's gone. If lore part was still there, then yeah, we would be really facing, like if they would have played that out a little longer, then we would be facing a whole nother.
Well, in First Contact, he was kind of seduced on, and they had nothing to do with lore.
Well, I'm just saying, just because we know that was kind of that whole chaotic piece. So yeah, I don't know though. I mean, we saw all of the magic reds turn magic blue. So I don't know. Borg could turn magic blue back to magic red. You know, we could be in trouble again. I'm not sure.
I think this is going to be one of those things where I will probably understand it more once the whole season is done, and then can go back through and watch the entire season, because I know that I don't know. Like I said, I feel like there are three different pieces of things that each were explained very well, but I'm not figuring out how they go together. You've got lots of issues. You've always got an issue with something. What is it now?
Okay. What? So my last issue was the fact that
it's the last one, people.
I promise. Well, unless you bring something else up, and then it'll be your fault again.
It's always my fault anyway.
So, like they go to the Starfleet Museum and they pull up the 20-year-old restoration that Geordi's been doing, and push the magic button and everything just works and they fly out with it. So I guess this is our last piece, our last chance, our only hope of anything working against like all these other newer ships, better, I will say better and more multiply supplied weapons and things like that. I mean, even Worf was joking around, like, I like the other.
I like the Enterprise E.
I like the other ones because they had better weapons, like, yes, of course you did, Worf. So yeah, I'm wondering, because this is such an old ship, like it's their original ship. Even with the restorations, yes, they grabbed another like base from the
star drive,
another
Galaxy class.
I mean, I would assume it was like a much newer thing. But I mean, like, I don't know, like, can you take a really old and a new and stick it together and go, yeah, it's all gonna be compatible?
Yeah, you can, because the thing with the Galaxy class, and a couple things went behind the design of the saucer separation. It was, one, to be able to give the non-essential crewing personnel and families an ability to get themselves away from danger in dangerous situations. And also they were designed to be able, if needed, to be interchangeable, especially a case like this. Like if your ship is separated But 20 years is a long time. I mean, this is like the jump in technology in 20 years, I think, from what they're talking about, seems so drastic that, like, I mean, I almost feel like it's like talking about our childhood of when we were having like the little corkscrew telephone stuck to the wall versus somebody's brand new iPhone today, you know? The saucer section is what he was working on that whole time. That Starcraft section was already, like, sure, it needed some fixing, but that did not have to be rehab from, like, as much as the part that Riker hot dropped on the Viridian 3. Right. The part that blew up. The part that blew up is fucked. Okay. Yeah. What we have now is the saucer section that was not in good shape either and needed a whole lot of work done, a lot of restoration done on it. Okay. So I'm sorry. When you said you had a problem with something, I zoned out. I tuned you out. It's just what were you talking about? What did you say? It's I don't get it, people. I'm sorry. It's just this reaction. Whenever she's complaining about something, and it's a lot, I sort of just zone out. Oh my gosh. I heard most of what you said. I can't help it. No, I mean, it's like there are nanoprobes in me that make you not listen. I know. Shield me from the babbling. Shut up. Okay, so my issue was like opening the, going to the museum and opening, and there's no like I know Geordi, captain of the Enterprise E. I know Geordi has been doing stuff, but like I wouldn't think in all of, even with his museum things, I mean, I don't think he can't run a ship by himself. And even if his daughter had been there, the two of them can't, like, I don't think that they would be sufficiently able to pilot an entire ship by themselves. That was not ever something that they were ever going to do. Right. So so how does he know that this is like outer space worthy? Like, he knows. That he could take it out and that everything would work, and that all the systems are functional, and this is even something that's battle worthy. He's been working on it. It's kind of like when you've been restoring a car. You get to a point where that, okay, this is ready now to be driven. He knows. So you think he took it out and took it for a spin around the time? I don't know. Well, no, probably not. I mean, that's why I'm saying I just like to push the button and say. Right now is a good way to find out. I know. It's kind of like plugging data in and seeing if all hell breaks loose. I kind of feel like, we have no other options and we're pushing go and we're doing it. And if that's what's happening, we're dead in the water and the outer shield doesn't quite hold and all our air is sucked out, well, so be it. I think that they are in a situation, and there have been these situations where you've run out of time to test things and to... He says, we all been here before. We've all been here. Yeah. We're good. Let's go. Just do it. Well, same thing happened in the motion picture. When the refit Enterprise, it had not gone through a warp test, and Scotty is urging testing and more simulation before they just jump to warp. Kirk is not having any part of it. They want to, and it was like, we got to go. We do the thing. Hit the button. Let's do it. So they ended up stuck in some freaking wormhole. That was pretty cool. It was the same thing. That was very cool. I actually love that. Yes. So yes, that's the situation. I think this hopefully will cover the beef that you and I have, is that right now there's not a lot of time for protocol. There's not a lot of time for rules and vetting. Things are happening. There's not time. They don't have time. Things are happening quickly, and they've just boom, boom, boom. You got to go. So who's coming to their rescue? That is my final question. The Enterprise D is going to save the day.
All by its lonesome.
All by itself. That's how we do it.
No, yes. I mean, Vadic had Borg, so Starfleet should definitely have somebody.
Oh, who's coming to
help out, Because I mean, I would think. What surprise
are we?
I'm thinking all these species are a part of Starfleet, but they're all coming from their own places.
Yes.
And all of these other places, there are many other ones that had also encountered with the Borg. So, them getting this DNA thing, getting the whole Starfleet together and doing this special formation, that's definitely an attack formation. And we're an army, we're coming to do nothing good. I would imagine that, I don't know where the Frontier Day is being held, but I would think
above Earth.
Okay, so I would think that there would be some other communication, even if the communication is cut off from Earth, don't you think there'd be other civilizations that would be monitoring Starfleet, be monitoring Earth, and be oh wait, there's suddenly dead silence. There's something not right.
It's like when you let the neighbors know you're having a party, they told the Klingons, hey, we're doing the thing this day. You're invited. You guys bring your blood wine, but just so you know, we're partying. I mean,
somebody's got to hear their party, their fireworks or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking there would have been something somewhere or some monitoring, some dead silence, whatever. We can hear the Borg signal. I mean, they give out this thing. I mean, is that going to...
You're saying if somehow Starfleet just goes offline, someone's got to notice.
Somebody
and be concerned with what the hell
notice
just
somewhere.
happened.
And so my guess is just who's coming to the rescue. Because I know this one little ship can't do it by themselves.
My money is on the Klingons. The Klingons come rushing in.
Maybe. Yeah, Worf's got some...
He's still got some pull. Yeah.
And he's been away in a different kind of role. So maybe he's got people he can pull in.
He's still got the hookup.
And, I don't know. So who are the allies that these last 7 Starfleet have of this old crew? Who can they call upon? I would think there'd be some Vulcans, now I don't know if that's even I don't think Romulans are.
The Romulans don't, their planet had been destroyed. They do have a fleet, sure, but
I'm thinking they're thinking anybody with ships and anybody with weapons, anybody that's non-Borg is can we call them and can they come help? Because at this point, we got to stop this.
What I don't want to see, and I would have a problem with this, that we'd be talking about next week, if it's the Enterprise D by itself, this sole ship with these 7 people on board that saves the whole day and solves the whole thing, I will be disappointed. You need to have there needs to be some sort of chariot running in with help.
That's what I'm saying. Somebody's got to be coming.
All right.
I'm telling you.
So
there's more to the party than this.
Let me cut you off before you bring up more beef.
No, lady. I'm not, and I'm good.
Are you done?
I did all my beefs. I had 3 and I got them all.
We apologize if we've gone over time on this session of BigJ's Beef. And it's all because of Nico and her ramblings.
You asked.
I did not ask.
You asked. You asked what my... You asked. You did.
I know better than... Why would I have asked that? I know the consequences.
You did your beef and you asked me.
I think I've lost my mind.
Yeah, you
That's
must
what
have.
It is.
All right.
It's because I've been assimilated.
I bet.
I think all of us men have been assimilated. That's our problem. That is what's wrong with us. We've all been assimilated and we're under some kind of control.
It must be.
And honey, you are the Borg queen.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Where's the beef?
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.